I think we do need to take a real hard look at how can we introduce new mechanisms to increase the participation of the way that we make decisions. I do still have concerns around direct democracy. I was heavily involved with a direct democracy movement called My Vote a few years ago, and as a consequence came to the conclusion that one, most people that vote just want to get on and vote for someone that can just do a good job and not screw them over. And I think that the majority of people don't want to get heavily involved in every single decision all the time. But that if we don't satisfactorily manage this sort of war on this post-truth era, what we're seeing now, the influence from mass media channels by individuals, the not being able to prosecute lies, and that we've seen so much misinformation occur, that direct democracy still makes me squirm a little bit until those things are properly managed. However, I don't think that we should necessarily put them off the table. What we need to be doing is thinking, okay, well, there's merit in there. So what provisions do we need to have to secure it, to make sure that it can't be hijacked, to make sure that people do start to engage in a meaningful way and it can't be railroaded from vested interests again in a different way. But most importantly, that we start thinking and talking about these things, because that is not on the agenda from the two major parties. And I think, and I hope that those that are looking for an alternative start to really pay attention to these ideas, looking at the case studies that are from around the world. Some are, council level all the way through, depending on which country you're looking at. So that's something that I was that I'm thrilled to see on your suite of positions and policies. The other part I wanted to bring attention to is around conscious voting and free vote. So did you want to talk a little bit about the Sustainable Australian Party's position on that?
Yeah, so look, as a party, of the political centre, we don't want to control people's minds. We don't want to say that we must have a position, everybody must have a position on the same position as a party on, important social issues to you. You're free to go out there and say, do you feel like abortion, euthanasia, republic, same-sex marriage, speak freely about those issues. Let's have a sensible conversation together. Let's all engage. Let's not have a slanging match. And what better place to engage than in a party where your broad values are, mainstream and similar, and you can talk through things. We're not going to say to somebody who's really someone who of strong faith that feels uncomfortable with something like abortion, we're not going to force them to change their view. We'll put together things that some facts, and we'll talk it through, and we'll say, here's all the evidence, and here's why it might be a good thing to give that choice. But we're not going to say you're out of the party if you can't agree with everything we say. So just having that respect for other people's personally held views, and understanding why that might be, and not judging them as some sort of bigot or what have you. We're more than happy to engage in conversations.
And I think for me, at least, the mechanism of being able to represent the people as opposed to a party, and I gave the example to, I think it was to Rob from the Progressives, if there was a party position, say, on banning live exports, but one of the electorates had that say is in rural Australia, and we're likely to bear the brunt of that that export ban. If that electorate were to vote differently and in support of if we take democracy seriously, then we would suggest that the representative of that group should represent those views. And I think this has been one of the major issues that I've had with the existing political system, is there is no room for that nuance. Technically technically an individual can cross the bench, but I'm very comfortable to say that crossing the bench is not going to get you elevated to the cabinet. It is not rewarded by the major parties. What they reward is blind, alliance to whatever the party says, and as much, butt kissing as can go on. And so therein lies the fact that there culturally is a distance from, say, where the party's official position is on free votes. And I think bringing people's attention to that in the way that a lot of the minor parties are, I think is really, really important.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things there. You've got to respect, people's local views, but at the same time, you've got to have values as a political party. Now, in WA, you've got, a live export issue. I was on the Bob Brown Stop Adani convoy and driving into that town where we got,
right,
banged up and so forth. Those people are really scared about their jobs. They're really scared about their families and their future. So, but what you've got to understand is that you've got to have a sensible approach to this and say, is digging up and selling off, coal, or is shipping live animals onto a horrendous, trade, is that really sustainable jobs? Is that really what's going to bring you any sustainability in terms of your economic well-being? So you've got to think through those issues. So, for example, live export, it's about, we've just had JobKeeper and JobSeeker. Why aren't those industries that are really, the way forward, or not the way forward, why aren't we doing special programs for them? Why aren't we doing job guarantees in the environmental space? Why aren't we doing value-added micro-manufacturing in places like North Queensland? So these sort of things are easily resolved if you have a government and local members who actually want to engage in value-added, sustainable jobs that are actually going to improve their well-being. They're after jobs. They're not after digging up coal or shipping off animals. They're after sustainable jobs and small business and factories and farms. That's what they're looking for, and that's what they can easily be provided with.